Peru, people denounced the arrests of 100 demonstrators since Sunday, 3rd of July, during renewed protests against Dina Boluarte. At least 4 residents of the occupied Donetsk region were killed in an Ukrainian shelling. And in Niger, President Maham Idris Deby of Chad has pledged to facilitate discussions with the military leaders amid massive protests in favor of coup, which reject a French intervention. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Rosabal from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. On Monday, Argentine Economy Minister Sergio Massa affirmed his nation will pay the $2.7 billion of its debt with the International Monetary Fund, IMF, using the second tranche of the swap agreement with China and will loan from the Development Bank of Latin America. The IMF agreed with the Argentine government on the 5th and 6th review of the agreements for $45 billion it took in 2018, which will allow the disbursement of $7.5 billion, but only in the second half of August after being submitted for approval by the board of the international body. Massa announced the payment on Monday will be cancelled with $1,000 million from a bridge loan from the Latin American Development Bank and the rest from the second tranche of a swap in force with China. The Argentina minister also pointed out that Argentina will not use a single dollar of its reserves to base Monday's maturity date.
Approval of 20 of the 21 member countries and the unanimous decision of the entire Latin American community to support and strengthen Argentina's reserves, a disbursement of $1 billion was approved. The additional $1.7 billion to complete today's payment of $2.7 billion will be made in yuan directly from Argentina's second tranche swap account with China to the International Monetary Fund.
In Brazil, on Sunday, black women from various parts of the states of Rio de Janeiro gathered in Copacabana to participate in the Night March of the Black Women Against Racism. The demonstration was organized by the State Forum of Black Women of Rio de Janeiro and counted with the participation of several collectives linked to the struggle against racial inequality. The event closes the week of mobilization for the International Day of Black Latin American Caribbean Women and takes place on the eve of the International Day of African Women. In Brazil, 67 of the victims of femicide and 89 of the victims of sexual violence are black women, and at the same time, it is a sector of the population with the highest unemployment rates in the country.
It's not a march of justification, it is a march of denunciation. We black women are at the bottom of all social pyramids. We are the ones who die the most, we are the ones who receive the least, regardless of whether we have the higher level of education, because the structural racism in this country continues to affect black women the most.
In Peru, on Monday, people denounced the detentions since Sunday, 3rd of July, of 100 demonstrators in a new protest against Boluarte. Nearly 100 people participated in the protest against the government of Dina Boluarte in the framework of the third seizure of Lima were arrested during the last 24 hours by the Peruvian National Police in the capital of Peru. A member of the network of lawyers demanded the release of these people, Jose Balarazo, denounced Saturday that the police detained almost 100 people from Lima and the region of Moquegua, Puno, Arequipa, and Clichayo. It denounced that there are detainees in hospitals, people who were even shot in the genitals on Friday, and others who had tear gas bombs thrown at them in the Plaza dos de Mayo on Saturday. In Colombia, a judge has declared legal the arrest of Nicolas Petro, deputy of the Colombian Department of Atlántico and son of the president of the country, Gustavo Petro, and his ex-wife, Deis Vázquez. This was confirmed by the Colombian Public Prosecutor's Office in a statement which detailed that the judge also declared legal 2 raids that were carried out in connection with the arrest of the accused. In addition, the request by Nicolas Petro's defense and the lack of jurisdiction was considered inadmissible. They also stated that in the next few hours, Pedro Burgos will be charged with money laundering and illicit enrichment, and Vázquez Castro will be charged with money laundering and violation of personal data. On Monday, the Haitian government accepted Kenya's proposal to lead a multinational force and deploy police officers to support the Caribbean country's security. After the Kenyan government's announcement, the Haitian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jean-Victor Genet, declared he received with great interest the proposal. The African nation announced on Saturday that it was ready to lead a multinational force in Haiti and deploy 1,000 police to help train and assist the Haitian police to restore normalcy in the country and to protect strategic installations. In the meantime, former Haitian Prime Minister Claude Joseph on Saturday announced his opposition to Kenya's intervention. Joseph assured he does not believe that sending police to Haitian soil will solve his country's security. The former Prime Minister also recalled that Kenya is also in the midst of a tough local socio-political crisis. In the United States, the Texas government ordered to reinforce the razor wire fence on the border with Mexico in spite of Washington's order to remove it. In a clear defiance of the U.S. federal government, Texas Governor Greg Abbott ordered this week the reinforcement of the dangerous razor wire barricades just under the former international bridge. The placement of a barrier of buoys and other infrastructure in the bed of the Rio Bravo by a dozen U.S. National Guard soldiers increased the border fence from 2 levels to 3 levels, leaving it more than 2 meters high. This has occurred despite a demand from the U.S. federal government to remove this barrier, which migrants qualified as inhumane and environmentalists considered to be a risk to the ecosystem. In Miami, Florida, the called Cuba Yes, blockade no was once again heard on Sunday in the face of the hatred of those in the United States who oppose any rapprochement between the two countries. In the face of harassment and provocations, Cuban Americans, U.S. citizens, and other nationalities joined the initiative of Puentes de Amor and Coalición Martiana. According to a video published in social networks, the demonstrators expressed that they were not there to oppose or confront anyone, but to demand justice. The caravan is for the Cuban family, the lifting of sanctions, and the removal of Cuba from the list of the countries that support terrorism, the call stated. According to the organizers, around 25 cars rode through the streets of Miami until they ended up in the area of the international airports of the city, where they sang the Cuban anthem with one voice. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English while you find news in different formats, new dates, and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. The Donetsk People Republic Control and Coordination Center confirmed Monday that at least 4 people were killed and 11 wounded in a new Ukrainian military attack on the city center of Donetsk. The mayor of the city, Alexei Kolenzin, said on his Telegram account that one of the shells hit a passenger bus which caught fire along with 2 other cars. The local mayor also said that the attack targeted residential neighborhoods, the social center, and a kindergarten all in the same district. According to preliminary information, Ukraine launched more than 100 rockets using United States made HIMARS missile launchers. And Moscow has intensified strikes in Ukrainian military infrastructure in response to attacks on Russian-controlled territory defense, Minister Sergei Shoigu says.
Backdrop of the failure of the so-called counter-offensive, Kyiv, with the support of its Western sponsors, has focused on carrying out terrorist attacks on civilian infrastructures in the cities and towns of the Russian Federation. The intensity of our strikes on Ukrainian military facilities, including on those supporting these terrorist attacks, have been considerably increased.
In the Caucasus region on Monday, a convoy of trucks seeking to deliver humanitarian aid to Nagorno-Karabakh area is reportedly blocked in the so-called Lashin corridor. 19 trucks sent by the Armenian government are stuck near Azerbaijan checkpoint on the only road linking Armenian territory with the Nagorno-Karabakh region. Tensions increased at the beginning of the month when Azerbaijani authorities temporarily closed the Lashin corridor, raising concerns about a humanitarian crisis in the region, which is experiencing shortages of food, medicine, and energy supplies. Last week, the Prime Minister of Armenia, Nicolas Petro, criticized the Back government's refusal to let the humanitarian convoy through.
See, there are 19 trucks behind me. They are loaded with humanitarian cargo that the Armenian government has decided to deliver to the population of Nagorno-Karabakh, which is facing a serious humanitarian crisis.
Chinese President Xi Jinping stressed the need to accelerate efforts to modernize the Chinese armed forces. The same is reported by Chinese official media on Monday were made by Xi on Wednesday in southern China's Sichuan province while inspecting the Air Force of the Western Theater Command of the People's Liberation Army. Xi stressed the need to enhance military preparedness and to ensure airspace security by thoroughly carrying out regular air defense. The president demanded an accelerated pace of phasing new equipment and forces to form combat forces. She made the inspection tour in anticipation of China Army Day, which will be held in the Asian giant next Tuesday, August 1st. On Saturday, the death toll had risen to 12, including 2 minors following the explosion of a firework warehouse in southern Thailand. Meanwhile, more than 100 people remain hospitalized, many of them in serious condition. While investigations into the cause of the incident continue, the police and the army seized pyrotechnic material from 4 houses in the area belonging to the owner of the warehouse where fireworks were illegally stored. The authorities tried this Monday to reset the order and return the electricity supply in the locality of Muno, where the incident occurred. Among the serious damage caused by the explosion, which destroyed the local markets, more than 200 houses were damaged, some of which were burned to the ground, while others lost their roofs due to the force of the blast wave.
Remained in a state of shock. My father and my sister were still at home. I couldn't go in to help. There were fires and explosions from all sides. When the fire was extinguished and I went inside and saw my brothers-in-law dead. Their bodies were burning, the bodies of my sister and my father were completely charred. I was shocked.
On Monday, Myanmar's National Defense and Security Council agreed to extend the country's state of emergency for 6 months, which is likely to delay elections that the junta had pledged to hold in August. The state of emergency was due to expire at the end of July, but on Monday, the National Defense and Security Council, made up of junta members, met to discuss the state of the nation. Acting President Min Aung told the state of emergency period would be extended for another 6 months, starting on August 1st, 2023. The fourth extension of the state of emergency will postpone the general election, which the junta needs to hold to transfer power to the winning party in accordance with the Constitution. A general election has to be held within 6 months after a state of emergency is lifted. teleSUR English launches its own videos on demand sites for you to go and revisit our interviews, sub-stories, special broadcastings, and more. Just go to the left corner and our website homepage and click on the video caption to access our audio platform. Now we have a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. On Sunday in Niger, a massive demonstration gathered in front of the French embassy in the capital Niamey to support the military junta that seized power. According to the authorities, demonstrators from different parts of the city gathered in Niamey's Place de la Concertation in front of the National Assembly. The demonstrators expressed the support for the military transition, reject French colonialism, and demand the immediate departure from the country of all Western forces. The slogans also reject the meeting of the Economic Community of West African States in Nigeria, arguing that it is contrary to the interests of the people of Niger. For his part, the African Union announced a 2-week ultimatum for the restoration of internal order. The military junta, the head of Niger's de facto government, issued a statement on Monday denouncing that the deposed government foreign minister had authorized an armed intervention by France to free the captured President Mohamed Bazoum.
As part of its investigation into ways and means of intervening militarily in Niger, friends with the complicity of certain Nigerians, held a meeting at the headquarters of the Niger National Guard to obtain the necessary political and military authorizations. Mr. Hassoumi Massaoudou, acting as Prime Minister, signed the document, which a statement says, "As Minister of Foreign Affairs, acting Prime Minister authorized the French partners to carry out attacks on the presidential palace in order to free the president of Niger, Mohamed Bazoum, who is being held hostage."
In this context, President Mahab Idriss Deby of Chad has pledged to facilitate discussions with the military leaders. This decision was made during a bilateral minute and an emergency summit of ECOWAS in Abuja, Nigeria. The outcomes of this discussion, particularly in terms of political stability and peace, could significantly impact the broader West African region. The offer also highlights the need for regional cooperation and open dialogue in resolving political disputes and maintaining peace. Davis arrived by came after West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, gave Niger's coup leaders a 7-day deadline to free Bazoum and return him to power or face consequences. And Niger's Prime Minister Oumoudou Mahamadou said foreign sanctions would be disastrous for the country after West African nations gave Niger's coup leaders 1 week to reinstate the country's democratically elected president.
The sanctions imposed by Western African nations are going to be disastrous for the population. It's going to be a catastrophe because Niger is a country that relies heavily on its partnership with the international community, with friendly countries, with international institutions that provide much support, especially when it comes to the second semester. We secured a budget for this semester with financial aid from the European Union, the World Bank and the IMF, in particular along with the French Development Agency. Turning one's back on this aid is suicide.
In China, meteorological authorities in Beijing maintain a red storm warning on Monday due to the forecast of torrential rain and warned that small and medium-sized rivers could experience flash floods and landslides. Local authorities confirmed in the western suburban district of Mentogu, heavy downpours caused the river to swell and flooded roads, killing 2 people and washing away several cars. The Beijing Meteorological Observatory predicted that several districts would experience heavy rains and also pointed out that Jiangding River, which flows through 5 districts in western Peking, is discharging water at a rate of 3,700 cubic meters per second, a once-in-a-50-year flood in the capital. In Canada, a firefighter lost his life while battling in northeastern British Columbia. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police demand, as yet unidentified, was transported by helicopter to Fort St. John by that en route. Authorities said he is the 3rd victim of this fire season. According to a statistic from the Provincial Forest Fire Department, 363 fires remain active in British Columbia, with 11 new ones in the last 24 hours and 191 classified as out of control. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alena Rosabal. Thank you for watching.